Alright, so the idle valve put back on. There was a break in the wire, and that's why the idle valve wasn't working when we were throwing the code, but the break in the wire wasn't an actual broken wire. It was this jumper. Now this jumper here takes power from the main relay, and it ties it to the 4 injectors for power and a couple other sensors, idle air control valve being one of them. And now, since our starter signal doesn't work still, we still use this here, and it's idling.
Wow, that sounds like an EG, doesn't it? We are rolling. This is like all times right here. Brake. What happened? All right, so you just got to reach out there and hit your starter. So what you're saying is I shouldn't stall it, right?
Yeah, try not to do that.
All right, keep one on the gas, one on the clutch. It's going to be hard to pop VTEC holding the camera. Go through here with no brakes. Oh, that sounds like butt. All right, so it's just good to hear this thing run. And again, it's a full type R motor. I don't have a VSC in it now, but it's probably, oh, it's on the chipped ECU, which we don't even know what that is. All right, try and hit the e-brake, and you have to do this and put your foot on the gas, make sure it stops. All right, so I don't want to go too far because I don't have a tag on the car. So, which way should we go? E-brake, e-brake. Which way is that guy gonna go? Going very slow in a straight line. All right, let's go this way. Second gear takeoff. It's got all kinds of noises. Listen to that. I think the brakes are just dragging. Listen. I don't know why I find this so funny. I feel like I'm 18 again. The only reason I'm laughing is because I know what it can be, and I have a nice car. Oh, don't! Oh, I almost stalled it. Actually, I didn't stall it. Oh, you gotta be kidding me! Dang it! Hold on. Let me put you on hold. Alright, so what is going on right now, I'm having to use the jumper to try and get the car started. Problem is it won't stay idling, so every time I put the positive on the battery, start the engine stalls. So I can't get around the car fast enough to get and tap on the gas. And being one person, if you had one person in the car, they could tap the gas, keep it running. So this is where I have to be a little bit of a band-aid here. I actually get a piece of the engine harness and jam it under the throttle to keep it idling, so when I come back around I can tap the gas, control the engine, and the piece of wire will hopefully fall out of the throttle body without sticking and giving me a full throttle issue or throttle sticking down the road. So it works. It's very hokey. I shouldn't have done it, but sometimes it's what you gotta do. Alright, so that's sketchy. So let me tell you what I just had to do. I just had to jam a piece of wiring harness between the throttle body and the throttle cable, because every time I hit the start and walk around here, it shuts off. Yeah, VTEC works. What in the heck is that? Such a weird sound. There is George on a quick test drive. He's probably wondering where I'm at. Yeah, VTEC works. You know, scraping and dragging and stuff. All the extra noises are good, aren't they? Give you a lot of confidence. Does it? This is going to be great though. When it's done, this is going to be unbelievable. I did the e-brake in and the tapping on the gas and everything seemed like it was good. Then I had to come to a complete stop. Then it all went south. All right, get ready. I'll push start. You ready? Nice thing about a CX. Look at that, one hand. All right, hit it. Super easy. One-handed pop start. plans for this car, and it's been in the works for a long time. I've been trying to get the car to do this. So we were known back in the day for our supercharger kits on the B series, so we have a used supercharger kit we're going to put on this car. We're going to do the LHT intercooler, the new LHT billet S-tube I'm super excited about, the LHT 4-into-1 headers. We're going to bring those back. We're going to do basically a small run of them. If that's something you're interested in, keep an eye on this, because I'm not going to be producing them. We might make 5, we might make 10, depending on the demand. The LHT 70mm throttle body package with the bracket and cable takes all that BS out of that throttle cable issue. That's something we're going to build. And I haven't put it on here, I didn't talk about it on episode 1, but we are in talks with GripTech to get some LHT proprietary pulleys for the Jackson supercharger. No more belt issues. It's going to be an overspin stepper style pulley, but the unique GripTech coating. So we're going to put the blower in its maximum efficiency range, maximum boost without blowing the thing up. So stay tuned on that. And of course, we talked about all these other little things. But let's get into it. Let's start taking the motor. All right, next up for grabs is this header. It's one of those RMF replicas. It's an eBay header. Of course, it's eBay. We're just saying eBay because that's the seller. It's not going to come with an O2 sensor, but that is the header right there. Surprisingly enough, it's not that trashed. It's got a bit of a dent there, but it's in decent shape. Traction bars, these are coming off also. I'll show you a picture of them when they're on the ground. They got a decent mounting point right here on the low control arms. These are not going on it. I'm not building a drag car. I don't want it to be interfering with the radiator like it was. The radiator was half sitting on this bar right here. The radiator mounts are right here. The radiator was interfering with this. I don't want that. I'm going to make it OEM. Worst case, we can always change these bushings to the metal bushings if we need a bit more rigidity, but that's not the plan for this car. Yeah.
No wonder it didn't inspire much confidence.
Yeah, I was going to say, no wonder it was. It's actually loose. It's not broken.
It's loose.
The bolt, the nut is half out. Wow.
I should have checked some things before we were ripping up and down the road.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're like, let's see how fast it goes.
We were just a little so excited, I think.
Yeah, no, it was. It was funny. Wow. Okay. Well, it's going to start getting better and better. That might be some of that squeaking and groaning when I drove it. Wow. These don't weigh anything. These are the other genuine Enkeis. You said to wear. This is a 30 pounds wheel and tire. Is that insane or what? Wow. That's what it's like to have an EG. Let's call it 31 pounds. What do we got going on right now?
Trying to get all the wiring out. Those RCAs are a little smashed.
Nothing wrong with it.
And these things are everywhere.
Scotch locks. There's 2 Scotch locks within an inch.
He had the power wire to the radio hooked up.
There's not even a kilometer between those.
He had this used as a butt connector hooking up the power to the radio.
And we got some wiring up here. Is this stereo wiring?
See this one? Another just pair next to each other.
Well, if you don't put a gap between it, you don't lose resistance.
And then another.
There's voltage drops.
Few there.
Yeah, you try and touch
you see
those.
there's one wire going in there, one coming out that side, so it wasn't like a splice, it was an addition.
I mean, it's kind of nice to have an alarm in, but the problem is having electrical issues is usually related to a lot of this stuff. I mean, like we showed you earlier, but look at the Scotch locks or wire taps, whatever you want to call them. There's so many of them, and they're tapped together and doing multitask stuff. I mean, it's asking for issues. We already have a starter signal problem, which this is part of it, but I think the ignition switch is a little wore out too. The electrical portion of it. It's 2 parts of the ignition switch, basically the key side of it and then the electrical side. And we just ordered a new electrical side, so we're going to replace that. But this is all the junk that came out. We're not going to use any of this. It's all going to the bin. Alright, so the flywheel that was in it is a pretty light one. It's an ACT. I just had it checked out and did a surface, but the more we're thinking about it, with a supercharger, you've already got a supercharger drawing on the motor, so not having as much inertia from the flywheel. Basically, when you rev it up, it revs down faster with the supercharger drag, and not having the inertia makes the drivability a little bit jerky, sometimes gives you stalling issues, that kind of thing. So we have a B16 flywheel, just had it reconditioned, make sure it's right. I'm going to put this one in. It's obviously not as light, but it will help with drivability. Alright, so water pump didn't show any damage, there's no rust on it, and honestly it feels pretty good. It's still smooth, but you never really want to go into a motor and not replace all the parts that are kind of related and should be changed. Timing belt, of course, looks a little sketchy. This is just dirt in here, not a problem. Looking at the head, so it turns out this is, we just pulled this off so we can look. So these are Type R cams. This is 2000 to 2001 Integra Type R CTR. This is 97, 98 Integra Type R. So Type R cams. This is, turns out to be an early B16A head, like one of the Japanese import motors, the B16As that just everybody put in their CRXs back in the day, including us. One of the dead giveaways were the, basically once you start taking it apart, was these guys here. Later motors used to be like a billet extruded looking piece. The early ones were cast. So kind of sitting looking at this, it ran good, didn't have any issues. It sat for a while, doesn't have any smoke in it or any leak down. Looking down here, it only has a single spring on the exhaust side, and it should have a dual spring, so I think just for preventive maintenance. So I'm going to leave this head and change the inner springs. These are Skunk 2 cam gears. They are missing the one here, which was common for when you adjust them. These were nice because they had the 6 bolts. They didn't have any issues of slipping, but someone's left those out. That was a common thing. You took it out to adjust it so you could see it. Time belt, water pump, inner springs, clean it up, put it back together. This should be good to go. Alright, so water pump came in, and this thing is unbelievably expensive. If you haven't bought B-Series parts in a while, this stuff is crazy. It's like buying stuff for a Porsche or a Mercedes. This is like 150 bucks now. I remember for the longest time it was like 90, and the timing belts were like 47. Now the timing belts are like 85. So most of it has been stripped out. We've cleaned this, we've scrubbed it. So now we're going to remove the last few odds and ends here and start sanding and prepping the engine bay so we can repaint it. It's not bad. It was painted before, but I don't think they did much prep down here. We scrubbed this, we used engine cleaner, we used purple, we used a few different products to get it as clean as what it is. We're not going to keep those labels just because there's a little bit of damage around that shock tower. It's just dented from the inside. It's not a structural problem, but we're going to sand that and slick it, repaint it, take the shocks out, you know, do a decent job. A few more things have to come out, but for the most part, you can kind of get an idea what we're doing here. So the engine bay is going to look nice. The engine is prepped. We're going to, of course, paint the valve cover. Let me show you the engine real quick. So the engine definitely looks cleaner. See, I've done a little bit of scrubbing on the aluminum, refinished the brackets like we showed you in the video. It's got the dual valve springs now. The cams are just set the way they were. New time belt, water pump, new plugs. Went over the lifters. Want to start taking the back assembly off here as well. Take the intake manifold off. Start fitting the supercharger. Of course, it's getting one of our intercoolers, one of our billet S-tubes, so I can show you the fitment firsthand, how good that S-tube fits, how much more clearance it gives you. Of course, the throttle body and bracket and cable makes things easier. And we're so close to getting those pulleys done. We're still talking to Grip Tech. They've got the first drawings done for us. We're just going to okay them. We're going to get one set made, put them on, test it, make sure it's 100% perfect, and then we're going to probably do a run of 10. So keep that in mind. It's going to be basically the stepper pulley for the alternator and the pulley for the supercharger. And once we get the belts figured out 100%, we're going to include the belts. We'll put it together as a bolt-on kit for you, try and save you a little bit of legwork. Thanks for watching. I'm so glad you're enjoying this episode. Episode 3 is coming up. As you see, paint is now slick. We've been working on this, been putting in some hours on this, and the feedback that you give us makes me want to share it, so thank you. I really appreciate the comments, and I appreciate the people that's following along and enjoy this kind of content. It is special to me. Bert was a good friend. I spent a lot of time going to car shows. This car's been to Nopi so many times. It won a trophy at Nopi. Maybe we'll do a podcast in the future and we'll get Bert on and we'll share some stories, because I have a lot of crazy stories with Bert from Vegas, from car shows and street racing, all that kind of stuff. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, share it. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thanks for supporting this build. If you didn't see the video about Fontana Dam, I'm thinking about taking this car there. It's going to be a huge meet. It's going to be something that is worth the drive for sure. See you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching.